Noisy Neighbours by Simon Harrison. Guernsey, summer 1994. It was a warm, still evening at Grand Havre. The distant sound of chinking glasses and chatter from the Humet Tavern, a bluebird taxi waiting outside, and the smell of salt and parched wrack gently wafting up from the bay. The new Peninsula Hotel illuminated Roos Headland with a sliver of moon above, but this otherwise sleepy corner of the vale was as dark as it was quiet. Halfway up Humet Lane, though, in a small workshop about 100 yards behind the Humet du Nord Hotel, things were very different. Vroom, 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 vroom. "What do you think, Beans?" yelled Kev, revving his Yamaha motorcycle enthusiastically. "Eh? The new exhaust, what do you think?" "Vroom, vroom, 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 vroom. Made in Italy, mate. 400 quid from Millard's. Should give me a few more horsepower, though, eh?" Beans, barely visible for exhaust smoke, was tinkering with something oily at the other end of the workshop. "You'll get stopped for sure. The law ain't going to like that. They'll hear you coming from North Beach." Vroom, vroom, vroom. Kev swung his leg off the bike and let it idle as he knelt to adjust the carburettor. "Running a bit rich now, I reckon," he shouted, mostly to himself. Beans, now lost in a plume of exhaust smoke and grinding sparks, was busy cutting through the rusted wing of a Ford Anglia. It was like the engine room of the Carpathia in that cramped workshop, but neither of them wanted to be anywhere else on a Friday night. Meanwhile, Radio 1 was playing dance music at high volume, but you'd never know it. The boys only heard snippets, the cacophony of their own metallic orchestra unrelenting as they crafted metal and tweaked air-fuel ratios. "That's better. Running sweet as a nut now, mucker," announced Kev proudly. Beans put down his angle grinder, slipped off his goggles and wandered over. "Job's a good 'un, mate. Still reckon you'll get pulled, though," smiled Beans, shaking his head. Bang, bang, bang. "Do you hear that?" "Oh, it's just the music, mon vieux." Bang, 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 bang. "There it is again," said Kev. "It's something else. I'm telling you." Beans' ears pricked up. "Shh. It's outside." "Open up." Kev and Beans froze. Kev still holding his spanner, Beans clutching his fogged-up goggles. They glanced at each other, eyes like saucers. "Open up, you bloody morons!" The voice sounded misplaced somehow. The hoity boom of public school English stood out like a sore thumb in this neck of the woods. The door was unlocked, but thankfully, despite their rage, whoever was looming on the other side restrained themselves from tearing it open. Kev turned to Beans and shrugged. Having got over the initial shock, their demeanours quickly returned to nonchalant. They were so laid back that they were both liable to blow over in a stiff breeze. "I know you're in there," roared the voice from behind the corrugated door. Manners or not, their composure was wearing thin. Beans shrugged again, motioned to the door, and pulled it open. It took a few seconds for his eyes to adjust to the darkness. The door slowly fell open behind him, illuminating a large man wearing slippers and an expensive-looking red dressing gown with diamond-shaped pleats. His bushy beard shadowing a deep tan and a look of contempt. "You all right, mate?" asked Beans coolly. The man lurched forward, eyes fixed on Beans. "Do I look bloody all right? You clowns have been revving the knackers off that wretched thing all evening," he yelled, shaking his fist, making the gold Rolex on his wrist jangle. "I'm just testing my exhaust. It's new," said Beans proudly. "You're testing my bloody patience," shouted the man, his nostrils pulsing like a bull squaring up to a matador. Beans took a small step back, trying his best to avoid eye contact. his mind churning over the randomness of the situation. He knew the neighbours: Nev Tostevin the fisherman, Mr. Mudge from Sark, Joan with the dog, and the Le Gallets in the bungalow next door. None had complained before. It was as if the man had been transported in from some swanky gentleman's club. "Well then," he boomed. Beans glanced back at Kev, his mind suddenly alight with clarity as a rush of confidence took over. "Hey, aren't you that Hollywood actor?" The man straightened himself, gathered his loose gown, and whipped the belt into a knot. "I am not here to discuss my profession, dear boy," he huffed. "See to it that the racket stops, or I'll be calling the police." And with that, he was gone, back up Hume Lane into the dark. Kev joined Beans on the doorstep and gave him a friendly elbow in the ribs. "Phew, that was something, eh, mate? Who the hell was that, anyway?" "That, mate, was Oliver Reed,"